Welcome back, everybody. Let us talk now about the St. Louis Cardinals. See what they can do during spring training and going into the regular season to make it back to the playoffs, hopefully, and maybe further in the playoffs. But first, let's talk about the record from last year. They finished 91-71 last year, first in the NL Central. If I'm not mistaken, that was the first time they made the playoffs since the 2015 season. I think. Yeah, that makes sense. I'm almost certain it was the 2015 season. But they went a little bit of a playoff drought, and they finally made it back last year by being first in the NL Central. They beat the Braves in the NLDS in 5 games, but they got swept in the NLCS by the eventual World Series winners, the Washington Nationals. The Nationals were just a better team, and they kind of deserved to go on in that respect. They were just obviously the better team. And that's why St. Louis got swept, got pretty much humiliated during that series. I think goal for St. Louis this year is they have to make it back. Have to make it back to the playoffs. Yeah, it's nice that they finally made it back to the playoffs. Had a little bit of a playoff drought, like I said, but now they need to make it further, make it at least to the NLCS again, if not to the World Series. But I think the goal for them is they have to make it back to the playoffs. Key additions, not really much. They barely did anything in free agent in the off season. I think out of all 30 MLB teams, I think they spent a total of 8 million on signings, re-signings, and just off-season deals in general. And when you're getting the Royals, the Rays, the Orioles spending more money than you, then there's a problem with that. And a lot of fans of St. Louis were kind of wondering why is Mozeliak sitting on his hands not doing anything, and I can understand why. But they did get two really good guys in free agency, and one of them, I'm gonna try and say his name, I'm gonna butcher it probably, Kwang Hyun Kim. From now on, I'm just gonna call him Kim because I don't want to have a heart attack trying to read that name again. So Kim, I believe, came out of, I think it was the Japanese Nippon League or one of the Korean leagues, but I think it's the Japanese league. Uh, Nice big lefty that can come out and throw. Looks really good from what I've seen. Not much, but from what I've seen and heard, looks like he can be a competent starter. Hopefully a starter, because St. Louis kind of needs a starter that's a lefty, not just have an all right rotation. Got to have somebody in there for diversity. Um, I think it's going to be a good move by St. Louis in the long term, especially with Kim. Even though he's up there in age, he's not going to be with the team for probably very long. But they needed some guy in there that's a lefty that can throw the ball and throw the ball hard and throw the ball consistently, especially as a starter that's a lefty. Because St. Louis lacks lefty pitchers for some reason. I don't know why, they just do. And the other guy, which is another lefty who's looking really good, is Matthew Liberatore. And I really like Liberatore. And when there were the rumors that we'd have to throw him in the trade with Arenado, I didn't want that to happen because we need lefties. St. Louis needs lefty pitchers. And yeah, it'd be nice to get Arenado, but we kind of need Liberatore, I think, because he's young, really young. I think he's 21, 20. So this guy's just in getting into getting into the baseball world. So I think getting Liberatore was a great move by Mozeliak, one of the few moves he did in the offseason. Now we're getting to the depth pieces, the bench players. Um, Matt Wieters re-signing for I think 8 million for one. No, was it 1.5 million for 1 year? I think it was. It wasn't much for Wieters, and I think that's a good move too. I think you got to have Yachty play more. You got to have Yachty rest more because that wear and tear, especially kneeling down for being a catcher, that wear and tear starts to get to you, and I think at this point it might start getting to him. But we got to, as an NBA term, have load management. I think, and that's why we probably are going to have 3 catchers on their major league roster in Wieters, Nisner, and Yachty. So I think it's a good move re-signing Wieters. Andy's a switch hitter that has some pop, especially against righties, or I think righties. It might be lefties, or left side of. I think left side of the plate. He's a better power hitter than on the right side. But I think it's a good move re-signing him. We St. Louis also got Austin Dean from the Marlins. I believe that was a trade. Uh, a depth move that I didn't really think needed to happen because I keep saying we. St. Louis keeps getting outfielders. They have too many outfielders. So they traded away Martinez and Arozarena for Liberatore, which is a good move, but then you pick up another outfielder. That doesn't make any sense, unless it's for clearly the minor leagues. But I think Dean's a major leaguer. And the last move that they did in free agency was Brad Miller. Lefty bat, utility player, which St. Louis has a lot of utility players, it seems like. Or utility players that can play every position except catcher half the time. Um, it helps Carpenter have a friend because they both have no batting gloves. Miller had that stretch, I think, of 1 week where he completely tore it up in Philadelphia. I think he had 2 games where he hit 3 homers each, or was it 3 games that he hit 2 homers? I think it's 3 games where he hit 2 homers. And he has some pop. He's going to be a nice bench player, I think. Nice lefty coming off the bench. I think that's a good, probably underrated move from Mozeliak in the offseason. I think it's a good move. Key losses. The big one was Marcell Ozuna. They lost in free agency. They just couldn't get him to sign, which completely sucks. I liked Ozuna. I thought he wasn't getting. How can I say this? Ozuna, we were paying him for what he did that 1 year in Miami, where he had 35 homers, 120 RBIs, looking like that was his breakout year. And he's just fallen back a little bit. He's still a nice guy to have at the 3 spot, maybe clean up. But he just wasn't able to do that in St. Louis. And he wanted to stay in St. Louis. That's the thing. It's just couldn't agree on terms, which really sucks, but it kind of clears out the outfield for these young guys that are coming up. So there's some pros and cons of letting Ozuna go. You're going to miss the bat, but now you're giving these young guys more opportunity to play, more playing time. We also lost Jose Martinez, another outfielder, like I've mentioned. Really good bat, especially in the playoffs. He was a really nice hot bat. They've been talking about trading him since 2018 when he had his first really good year, and now we got off of him. I think it's an okay move, especially considering what we got back for him in Arozarena. I think it's a good move. And they lost Michael Walker. Nice pitcher. He's been hurt a little while. He's a competent pitcher. I like him. I think he's going to be well. He's going to do well in the Mets uniform. Sad to see him go, but I think it was for the better that we let him go because he just wasn't what he was in 2014, 15, I think it was, where he was like the number 2 guy behind Wainwright. It might have been 13 as well. But I think all the losses make sense, and all the additions somewhat make sense other than Dean. So I don't... Just lackluster offseason. And it's a typical Cardinals offseason. Not much... No big splash. That's the thing. There's no big splash coming from St. Louis's camp. Stuff to look for this season, I think the biggest concern right now is the leadoff spot. Who's going to hit first in the order? St. Louis ranked, I believe, last in almost every meaningful statistic for the leadoff spot. Batting average, on base, everything was either 30th, 29th, or 28th. We had the statistical, I think, second worst leadoff spot in the baseball, in Major League Baseball. How you can go to the NLCS with that kind of statistic boggles my mind. How they have the worst leadoff spot, and you kind of need your leadoff guy to start things going. And when he doesn't, then usually the offense will start sputtering. And I think that's what happened at some points in the season last year. Was the leadoff guy wouldn't do anything, and then it would just contaminate the other players. It would just it's like a sickness. It just what's the word I'm looking for? Uh, Goes on to everybody else. Um, I think so. How are we going to fix that? I think Carpenter's probably going to be the leadoff guy if he plays third. I think he will. It's just I don't know where Edmonds going to play because that's another problem later on that I will actually get to right now, and that's clutter for the team. There's way too many guys on here that need to be playing that aren't. Because Matt Carpenter had a horrible year last year. I think he's going to bounce back. So if Carpenter's going to play third, where's Edmund going to play? Is he going to play right field and have Dexter Fowler sit the bench? You can't bench DeYoung. You can't bench Colton Wong, especially after the year he had. Either Edmund's going to play center or right. And I would assume he'd start right, take off Dexter Fowler, have him bench. So it's just clutter for the team. You got way too many guys that need to be playing MLB baseball. They need to be playing at the highest level, and they're sitting the bench because of clutter. So I think they need to fix that at some point. Maybe trade off somebody. I remember them talking about getting rid of Harrison Bader. I'd like to see him stay. It's just there's way too much clutter on that 25-man roster. I think they're going to 26 this year, actually. So that 26-man roster. I think another thing to look out for through this entire season is comeback year from Andrew Miller and Matt Carpenter. I mentioned Carpenter in the leadoff spot. I think he'll be okay. I think he'll have a comeback year. Maybe a 2018 type year where he hit 30-plus homers. I think that'd be nice, especially in that leadoff spot. He's really good in that leadoff spot when he's good. It's just when he's not, it's rough to watch, especially when he keeps hitting into the shift. Gotta oppo that ball, Matt. Gotta hit it the other field. But the other guy in that equation, Andrew Miller, that I mentioned, I think St. Louis is paying him for the year he did in 2016 with the Indians, where he was that guy that you could count on, go out there, throw those nasty sliders that broke 15 million feet out of the zone, and batters were completely fooled. I think Cleveland pitched him into the ground that year like the Brewers did with CC in 2008. So, am I going to see a comeback year for Miller? Maybe. I hope so. I think he will. He's a really good pitcher. I think he'll work his way out of it. But it's just the workload from that World Series run kind of might have wore him down quicker. But I think Miller will bounce back this year, especially since this is his second year in St. Louis now. I think he'll start fixing things out. Who's going to be the closer until Hicks gets back is another thing. Because Hicks is on the 60-day. He probably won't be back until June, July. So who's going to be the closer? Now, there's really, you got a lot of options here. What it might be is a bullpen by committee. But if it's not going to be like that, then you really only have two options. And that's Andrew Miller, who has shown in the past he can be a closer, or Giovanni Gallegos, who was the setup man last year, the 7-8 guy. Yeah, the setup man who'd come in and just throw those nasty sliders and get guys out. He had a really great year last year. And I think if anybody deserves the closing spot, it should be Gallegos. I hope it's him, because if he's coming out into the ninth, he's jogging out onto the field, I feel pretty safe with the lead. But then that means who's going to be the setup man before then? So I would assume Andrew Miller would be the 8th guy, and a rotation between John Gant, Tyler Webb, Brebbia, and Helsley for that 7 spot. We got a nice young bullpen here. We're still paying Brett Cecil God knows how much money. That deal didn't work out. Hopefully he gets something going, but he's in his last year of his contract. That deal has not worked out. And I think so to recap that one, I think Gallegos is going to be the closer, if not a bullpen by committee, or closer by committee. And the last thing to look out for through this whole year, especially right now in spring training, is who's going to be the starters. Because, you got your ace locked down in Jack Flaherty. Dakota Hudson's not the number 2 guy. If he could lower his walk numbers, he's going to be really good. He showed last year he can be good. It's just his walk numbers are high. Michaelis, he's out right now. He'll if he doesn't get any injury setbacks or any setbacks from his injury, he'll be ready to go, I think, in April. I think he'll be okay. But as of right now, Michaelis is out. So who's going to fill in? Which means, as of right now, Kim's the number 5. Carlos Martinez is the 6th. So that means Kim and Martinez would be starting. Unless they put Martinez a closer again. I hope they don't. I think Martinez is a better starter than a bullpen guy. But we keep flip-flopping him. We got to keep him at one spot. That'd be nice for him. I think Martinez and Kim will be the 4 or 5 guys right now until Michaelis gets back. But then I just, like I said, too much clutter on the team. It's way too much clutter. It's nice to have a 6th starter. Give an extra guy another day of rest. But when you have guys, when you have a 7-8 guys like Ponce de Leon and Austin Gomber, these guys are good. You got to have them play somewhere, and it's just don't know where they're going to play. That's the problem. So I think opening day rotation will probably be Flaherty, Hudson. If Michaelis isn't back by opening day, which I don't think he will be, I think it'll be I think Wainwright will go up to 3, Kim will move up to 4, Martinez will go up to 5. I think that'll be the rotation going into opening day. Flaherty's going to start opening day. That's no problem. We already got that pinched in. So that's the whole deal with the starters. I think players to look out for. I think Tyler O'Neill is going to have a breakout year this year. He looks really good in spring training. I noticed he changed up his batting stance a little bit, get a little bit better timing, especially with his front foot and his hands on his bat. So that looks really good. I see he's been working throughout all season. It looks like he's lost some weight as well. So that'll be a nice thing. Hopefully he can not strike out as much, because that's a problem with O'Neill. He strikes out a lot. So hopefully he doesn't strike out as much times, and those strikeouts that he would have gotten last year are now singles or doubles, maybe homers. I think O'Neill could be a number 5 guy, probably slotting 5th in the batting order. I think Paul DeYoung's going to have a nice year. Same with O'Neill. DeYoung had his ups and downs last year, struck out a decent amount of times. I think same with O'Neill. A nice guy to look out for. Good fielder in DeYoung as well. He can hit the ball hard, and he's shown it in the past. I mean, hell, he broke the Big Mac. He broke the M in Big Mac sign in Bush. So DeYoung's got the talent. It's just, can he figure it out, which I think he will. And Dylan Carlson, I think, is going to be another guy to look out for. I think Carlson will be on the roster on opening day. He has done really well in spring training. And yes, I know it's spring training. But he has shown he's ready to play now. So I think he's doing a great job pressuring the ownership and the management ship. Something like that. That I need to play now. And if that's the case, he needs to be up on the roster, which I think he will be. And if he isn't on the opening day roster this year, he will be at some point on the roster. I guess for St. Louis this year, I think they'll be first in the NL Central. I could easily see him maybe being a wild card team, but I think they're kind of the shoe-in for first in the Central. Do I think they'll make it further in the playoffs? I don't know. Once you get past the regular season, it's a coin flip on whether you're going or not. So I think they'll make the playoffs. I don't know how far. Just to wrap all this up, I think Mozeliak did a below average to barely just average job in the offseason, getting some guys. We lost some really good guys in free agency, and it's going to be a really fun, entertaining young team to watch for 162 games throughout this entire season. But that's the end of the video. If you guys liked it, press the like button. Comment down below what you guys think about St. Louis. Do you think they're going to be a playoff team? Do you think they're going to be first in the division, a wild card team? Maybe miss the playoff world entirely, which could happen. Anything can happen in baseball. Just let me know what you guys think about St. Louis, about the team and everything. Subscribe if you haven't already. That'd be greatly appreciated. Share this video with all your friends and buddies. And I will see you guys in the next video.